yeux de lumière qui voient passer au loin les oiseaux.
Please watch the film and state about five things, 5 items, 5 thoughts you think they are really important. What this film means, it's a kind of documentary. I say kind of documentary because it's so many years ago that nobody really can testimony, can witness what was going on there. But it is at least, as far as is known from history books and from whatsoever, a real case that happened in ancient Rome.
So we have to watch film and do 5 differences.
Write down 5 things that you think is important.
If a sinister-looking man carrying an axe knocked on your door and asked you where your best friend was, would it be morally acceptable to tell a lie? Immanuel Kant, surprisingly, thought it wouldn't. The example of the would-be murderer is his. Tell the truth is what Kant called a categorical imperative, an absolute duty, one without exceptions. It applies to everyone, whatever the consequences. In fact, Kant argued that if you told a lie which, by chance, led to the axeman finding your friend, that would be on your conscience. So if you tell the axeman that your friend is not in the house when he is, and your friend then sneaks out the back door and bumps into the axeman, anything that then happens is, to some extent, your responsibility. But if you told the truth, then the consequences for your friend, no matter how grisly, should not be on your conscience. This brings out how different his moral stance was from utilitarianism, the philosophy that you should do whatever brings about the greatest happiness. A utilitarian would think about the consequences of telling the truth or of lying. In contrast, for Kant, some actions were just wrong, even if good consequences might flow from them. This is known as a deontological approach to ethics.
So you can watch individually, or you can watch with 2 or 3 people, or in the group. But try, you will all have a different perception.
Okay. Everyone gives their own thought. Everyone gives their own personal thought.
Exactly. And this is important. The film I gave you with the Roman, I don't know the title anymore. But to underline how important it is to give your own opinion. I watched once a film, met many years later, or a couple of years later, 2 colleagues with a different background. They both had been Turkish, but the one was living, working in Turkey. The other was working abroad. And if you would have heard us talking about the film, this one film, you would have said they are talking about completely different films. Because what we saw in it was completely different.
Like you showed the bird and the
Rabbit.
It's kind of, it's
everyone
compelling.
have their own view.
Yeah. You have your own perspective, and wherever you see birds, wherever you see a rabbit, wherever you see in this film, which you will watch, you will see the solicitor, you will see more the judge, you will see the people around, and whatever is important for you. And this is different for each of you. So watch together, discuss it as well. We'll talk about this then next time. And today I have another little film. This is a very short one. We can discuss it immediately and we will come back later to it. What I said last time is, in terms of rights, in terms of human rights, we defined, well, we didn't define history, defined who or what is a human. It's not the biological understanding we have, but the human in terms of rights, having rights, had been the ruling classes, the citizens of the ancient cities, not the slaves, not the women, not the children. And today we are talking as well about children's rights as human rights. So there is a huge change. Disabled people had been locked up in the medievals, in the Renaissance, in 1500s, 1700s. They had been locked up, they had not been considered as being human beings. Today they are, and still they have disadvantages. So we have to look at the different perspectives, who is considered being a human being. And then we said as well, the second part is, what does it mean to be human? Standing on two legs and walking, to some extent. If you lose one leg, that is not the case anymore. Anyway, the biological point is only one amongst others. What else? We come back to this and we will discuss as well what does it mean in terms of attitude. We talked about it, but you used a different term. We didn't say deontological, but we said, what?
Moral.
Moral or categorical.
Categorical.
So you have the consequential. What is the consequence of it? The consequence of your action. If you say your friend is in your house, or you say she is not in my house, you think about the consequences. What will be the consequences if I say she is in the house? The consequences are this person, obviously a murderer, well, this is what Kant says, the story, will go into the house, will search your friend, and will do harm. That's what you can calculate what you think. Now, if you have the same situation, but you say something else, you say, no, she's not in the house. What do you think then? What happens? Why do you say, no, she is not in the house?
Say, if the friend is actually in the house and you say he's not in the house, just to save the friend.
Okay, exactly. So the consequence of saying she is not in the house is, in your opinion or in your hope,
He will leave.
the person will leave and nothing happens. But you tell a lie. And this is what actually the categorical imperative is about. The proper definition is the proper definition taken from the critique of practical reason. He has 3 definitions, but this is the one. Act so that the maxim of thy will, what you want to do, can always at the same time hold good as principle of universal legislation. So it says, in other words, act in a way that you expect others to act in any situation. And you do not expect and accept other people to lie. You expect me to say, this is what Kant said in 1788, and you do not expect, or you expect that I do not say, this is what I say in 2019, this is my genius coming up with this. What is the reason? Why do we expect me not to lie?
Because it's legally, maybe. Because it's legally.
It's legal, sure.
Yeah. This is the only way why you shouldn't protect your friend. Legally, you don't have to lie.
Legally, you have to lie.
You don't have to lie. You don't have to lie.
Okay.
You shouldn't. Legally. Morally. Because we don't know that matter. Because we don't know, we need to protect us. So it's better. Like if someone comes to me in my room, he told me like he wants to come inside, and of course if I don't know him, I told them no, I don't want to. Like it's better way to lie.
Okay, but not put yourself into the different positions. You are in the house, you are the friend, and you want to survive, right? So you expect your friend not to say the truth.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if she doesn't say the truth, I cannot rely on this person in any case. Because if he lies once, he will lie the other time as well. So why should I trust this person, expecting that he or she lies, and expecting that he or she says the truth in all other cases? Doesn't make sense. There will be always a reason that I do not say the truth, even if it's the reason I make fun of you. This is not as serious as here, but it is a reason as well.
It's like special circumstances, and you can't, I don't know, can we decide that it's a lie, or it's like trying to keep safe your friend, or even wife, or daughter, I don't know how to say that. Can we accept this as a lie, as giving a, I'm sorry, I'm gonna translate it.
Just, I can't hear. Oh no, if they are anyway, standing up is.
I think we can lie in some cases. For example, it's morally justified if we want to prevent want to prevent that. This time.
Okay, but then you change your reasoning. You say, what they said at the end of this film, you are not acting according to certain categories, but you are acting according to the consequences. You calculate the consequences. You say, in this case, I assume if I do ABC, 1, 2, 3 will happen. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my calculation. You mentioned the difference between moral and legal.
Yeah, of course. I don't know. Can we accept this as a giving of false testimonies? Just in that case, I don't know how to divide them. Is it just a lie or giving a false testimony, or trying to protect someone?
I think it just depends on the situation. And if it happens,
Anyway,
your friend will understand that it will not mean that I'm lying always. I'm lying in a specific situation to follow the ethic rules. Ethic rules between friendship, me and my friend. That's how I see it.
You should think as a lawyer, as a judge.
I mean, but I'm looking at the specific situation in the perspective of my friend's opinion. I think it will be good if I lie. Not a bit if it will be good. I'll just lie. That's what I will do. And I don't see another option. I will never say where he is.
So we have the reason. The one is categorical. You heard they use the term deontological. You can use in principle. In principle, you do not lie.
Principle.
In principle, you don't lie. Whatever happens, you do not lie. That is the categorical, deontological perspective. The other is
Don't lie. But what about the private life of another friend?
The
I
what?
mean, why would I say to a stranger where my friend is? Still, like I don't have to tell where he is.
you say the question is clear: is she in the house? It's not where in the house is this person. It is in the house or not.
I mean, why do I have to is he a judge? Why do I have to tell the murderer where my friend is? It doesn't matter. In the house or not in the house. That's why I'll definitely lie. Because why do I have to follow the law telling the truth? Legally telling murder where the person is that he wants to kill?
Just imagine yourself in a judge.
Then I'll see that all murderers just rush and find where's my victim? I want to kill him.
Okay, then you would be in conflict with the moral and the legal law, right? You would say the morality requires me to save this friend, which in this case means telling a lie. The legal perspective means I have to tell.
There shouldn't be a legal lie. If legal doesn't support murderers. Law doesn't like murderers. Judges doesn't like murderers.
That's an interesting one. That makes
There's
it
still
that makes it
rule
even
that
more,
when you don't obey the murderers.
that makes it even more complicated. But you see, with the time where it's getting to what he is getting, it is a certain kind of rationality. And in a way, I mentioned here, consequentialism, it's a rational way of saying, okay, I calculate the outcome. If I say she is in the house, most likely this murderer will go in and kill this person, do harm. If I say is not in the house, will turn away. The other thing would be, actually I don't know and I don't bother why should I answer you?
Yeah, that's what I'm.
I'm not answerable to you, I don't know even who you are. Why should I say you?
That's the legal one.
Okay. So we have there and there different perspectives. Here I calculate what is the likely outcome, and here say no. In principle, for whatever reason, I do not lie. I always say the truth. Because, and then you have actually this simple case, of course your friend will say, thanks, great that you didn't tell the truth. But then, if you look at society, everybody has at some stage a reason not to say the truth. So this is Kant's argument, saying if we allow one person in one case to lie, not to tell the truth, then we get to this point that we never can trust anybody. Because we do not know if it is not this one moment where this person thinks this is so important that I allow myself to lie. So, two different perspectives. Kant is probably sitting there and listening to answer and saying, well, of course I will just say, just go away, I won't tell you. But in principle, in terms of the philosophy, you have these two different opinions, two different stances. And in both cases, the argument is a rational argument. They both think about it. It's not just today it's raining, don't mind it whatsoever. They are thinking about the consequences, and they have different conclusions. So I thought, going through it again, I thought it's actually interesting that on the one hand, we talked about enlightenment, human beings are possessing themselves, they make their decisions rationally. Kant opposes actually the consequentialists, the utilitarianists, and says, your rationality is wrong, my rationality is correct. Bentham, Mills, whoever, they would say, so you are stupid, this is not rational. You know what is going to happen. This person will be aggressive, is aggressive, and will kill your friend. And you are so stupid, you say, oh, of course, he's there. So, at least this is part of this discussion. We have had, and we will have further on. I'll summarize a little bit what we have had before.
But it's still for me, sorry for cutting in, but it's still difficult for me to understand the situation. If I see it in another perspective, if it was a policeman or some kind of lawyer or someone I don't know, but I'm sure it's not murder, I'll tell the truth. Even if it's a policeman, I'll tell the truth. It depends on the situation. If it's like if my friend did not commit a big crime, I will not tell you the case. But if it's a murder, I will still never tell the truth. I think it's mostly depends on situation. The cat's acts depends on situation. If it's not murder, you can tell the truth. But murder, I cannot perceive that thing. Telling it, giving away your friend.
Well,
Maybe it depends on the times that cat lived in. It was different time, and now different times. Maybe they had different morals, maybe a different mentality. At Kant's time.
well, we will come back to this again and again. We have the same conflict in the discussions today. We'll probably come back to it today in, that you have the legal positivism, it's called. Saying law is law and you do what the law describes. It's not the moral law, it's the legal law. And if the legal law says, the law in terms of the legal system says, you do not run onto the street because there is strike, you don't run on the street. This is the law. And then you have the moral law, which of course says, go and save the child. And there is a dispute, how far does it reach actually, this legally defined law? How far is there, I'll briefly point on it now, coming back to it later. The entire story is about ought to be, this is how it should be, meaning I should always say the truth. And then you would have an ought to be too. It should actually not be the case that somebody knocks at the door and says, I want to kill your friend. So this is changing the situation. This is, here I say, in principle, whatever happens, I will tell the truth. Here you should say, in principle, I always tell the truth. But under certain conditions, I will make an exception. Because my friend will understand that what I did was to save her life. And then I have the reality. This is how things are. Which means there's somebody standing at the door and knocking at the door. And I may even think how to save my own life and that of my friend. Because this is not a pleasant situation where we want to discuss with this gruesome person. Because the slightest insecurity you show will make him knock you down with it. What to say?
Just not open the door. Just not open the door.
Okay, but this is as well something where you can avoid, for instance, if you know in advance who is there. Or what you can say, actually, I don't know. Because if you go back to the picture, in that very moment you are standing at the door, your friend could already be on the way out of the house. So you don't know, and you can say it. It's not a lie.
But you're following the legal rules. That's what it's, I don't know. Again, in this situation, you're following legal. You're following the law. Say, I don't know. Tell the truth, you really don't know. We're exactly in the house. But again, it's if you see morally, you just putting out your friend.
No?
You know that he was seconds ago in the house.
But this is exactly
You just say, I don't know. He will still go in and check.
But this is exactly the problem we have in law, or in the discussions about law, is any law giving something about morals, or is it about something that is independent of moral standards? Because you see, moral standards are different. So how could I determine this is the one moral standard and only this counts? You have a conflict. Buddha von Jering, struggle of law. And you said it may be that there are historical moments, historical differences, and there are actually, there have been made that somebody said, Gustav Radbruch, usually you have to follow the law. This is ultimately what counts. And this is the law, not the moral law whatsoever. But, he said, and this was after the Second World War, if the law requires something very gruesome, killing all the Jews in Germany, wiping them out, genocide, if the law is so gruesome, then I have actually an obligation towards disobedience. If I know this is going to happen, this person will kill my friend, then I have the obligation, not according to Kant, then I have the obligation to lie. If I don't know exactly, and if this is just an exception, then it is at least questioned, according to Radbruch. And this is important. We have in law, and this is later on human rights, we will have these discussions, we have exactly these points. What makes it a human being to be protected and to be involved in this process? So we said we have society at the beginning, and wherever society is, we have law. Because there are always differences, different interests, different opinions, and there are kind of fighting against each other. And in a long process, historical process, what comes then? Society, and this means simply two people or a handful of people being together, then you have law. If it's an organized way of living together, the way we meet, we don't have a law. We do not set a law up for us. There is a law from the university, from the Chinese state, from your state, how we treat each other. But this is not what we negotiate. So implicitly I said already, what is going then on in terms of society? We have law in the long process. What is law?
Law?
Right decisions.
Hmm?
Right decisions.
It's like not right, it's
What are
mostly
the how to the right?
religious. Religious.
Justice.
Yes, it's more like justice between people.
From where do they come?
From the living experience.
Okay.
So by experience, if you respect each other and respect each other's like personal, private life, the way that people live, and most of them look same. That's why they have same law. Yeah, equal.
So we have equality starting at the end. We have, I wrote down individuals. We have respect and we have experience. Including the experience, I can trust this person, I cannot trust this person, whatsoever. But still, why or from where comes this law out of this?
From people.
Hmm?
People. Homo sapiens.
There's something wrong.
People are different from other living things. We have like our way of thinking. We're like more developed. So we can make our own law.
We can make law.
Yeah.
How
For
can-
example, your class, well, you say, we will like study in this room, we will today study this, and we agree because we respect you, you are our teacher, and we have to obey you. This is also law.
Everybody okay with that?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is that law?
I think it's some kind of unofficial law.
Hmm?
Unofficial law. And there is, unofficial laws where you say women can drive officially, but policemen or they don't allow them. They just make them difficulties. Or where they say Muslims can do something, but other religions prevent doing it. Not straight away, but just giving so law is by the people. Law is what people do.
Any other opinion? Any agreement, support?
I don't know.
So what happens if you do not respect me? You said we agree. I'm teaching. I'm here
You
staying.
punish?
Hmm?
You punish the students. You say that if you don't come to the class, you will have to be reported, or you'll be like minus or something. What
Okay,
is that?
but now there's a tiny difference.
Someone is getting nervous here.
I was just looking. There's the beauty of old classrooms. They had been short, and you could throw them at people.
Yeah.
That is my punishment.
Throwing something at people?
But I would report you. That's a different form. That's a different level. That's not my punishment. There is some instance to which I report, and this instance has authority. Otherwise, I can go on the campus to the lake here in front and say, but they didn't come. And they say, oh, that's for you. And that's it. If you didn't turn up, I don't know, 50% of the time, I have the list. I go to the department and say, or exams office or something, and say, Mohammed didn't turn up half of the time. All right? So you will be punished, whatever it means, 50% less of your grade, or you will be expelled, or something. That is regulated, there is a rule for this.
But that is the best regulation.
Hmm?
I mean, if you don't have law, you will get physical contact. Physical contact can end in different ways. Like someone get injured or worse. That's why we have law. We have law till 18 years old. Till 18 years old, for the kid, for the boy or girl, parents are responsible. After 18, responsibility stays for themselves. So that's why we have law, so there's no physical contact between the social groups. Because physical contact can end up badly. That's why we need law. Law that is supported, that is like accepted by the whole people, all the individuals.
But if it's all people, you have exactly this problem. You have equality, you have individuality, and you come into conflict here. If not all people are there, the others have to agree. Why?
I think that's something.
You have an instant that defines the law, the state.
Yeah.
And this is the typical, one of the typical definitions of the state. The state is the only instance that can legally apply physical violence, that can lock you up. There is a policeman, that is the state. They can say, you have been driving with 100 kilometers per hour here on this pedestrian road, so to say, and this is what you should not have done according to the law. Because all are equal, and this means you with your car or scooter are kind of equal to the pedestrians. Meaning at least you have the equal right to survive. And with 100 driving there, you don't allow other people to survive. As simple as that. It's too dangerous. So you have the state, which is the people, deciding a rule, whatever it means in concrete terms. You have parliament, you have judges, you have different bodies. They say the law is A, B, C, under these conditions. And this is how you get to this law, which is not the absolute ought to be, but this is coping with reality. The ought to be would be equality, meaning you do not have cars and pedestrians. Equality is all are walking, all are driving a car at the same time. So then you don't have
But
certain...
still, I see equality here differently. I see equality here differently.
That's why it's ought to be true, meaning this is the reality we have to cope with.
I mean, equality can be also divided to ABC.
Yeah. And this is what you have to balance, you have to negotiate. What is more important? Sometimes it's a very concrete case, and sometimes it's a very abstract case, where it is extremely difficult to find a solution. At least if you are serious about it, you cannot say religious freedom and say at the same time you have the right to oppress women. One is wrong, logically. You can say you have religious freedom but it includes the respect of women and women's same right. So you have different levels of rules. Ought to be, never tell a lie. Ought to be two, never tell a lie unless there is a real force. The reality, thank you that you lied. And that you didn't think too long.
Okay, by the law, what am I supposed to say? Where the location of my friend?
Well, the law would actually have difficulties.
Why do I have to tell the truth about non-law person? The murder is non-law, and I'm answering the law that I said a lie to a non-law. It doesn't make sense.
It makes sense in legal terms. In legal terms, it
Why
makes...
legal term? That person?
Yeah,
No, if he's against law, if he's killing person, he's not a law person.
But he's not telling you that he's a murderer. You don't know.
You know,
You
in
can
this
just-
actual situation, it says a cause axe.
So, okay, he has an axe. He has an axe, but it doesn't make him a murderer. He just can guess.
Okay, why do I have to tell him the truth?
Because,
Who is
I don't
he?
know.
Okay,
If I come to you and ask something,
What is the физическое лицо?
now hang on.
if it came a lawyer or someone official with a passport and degrees, I will have to say it, even if I don't want. But he's no one.
Well, but
It's not. It doesn't make sense to the law and to the murder.
in dubio pro reo, meaning in the case of doubt, you have to decide in favor of the person standing for you possibly being guilty. The prosecutors, possibly prosecuted. You do not know. And then we come actually to history. Recapitulation continued. I said we have the three levels of history. The one is the situation. I see you standing there with the axe. Not only that I see you with the axe, you are sitting, you are looking gruesome, you are looking brutal, and you are looking aggressive, and you are steaming, and I see that you want to kill someone. This is the situation. Now, history of events, this is what happens now. If I go back, it was quite normal that somebody standing in front of our house with an axe. Because every person had to look for the fire.
That's what I'm saying. The different time.
But by the law, like we have exactly right to say nothing. If we can't lie, we have right to say nothing.
In the court case, yes. But now you said something. That's the point. Now you said something. You had been kind of stupid enough to say something. You had been afraid of not saying it.
But I said previously that it's different times. At
Okay,
that time it
yeah.
was okay, and now it's not okay. That's what I
Exactly.
was saying.
But you cannot say, just because he is from last century or the century before, he is guilty. Perhaps he or she still goes to the woods and gets firewood. So you don't know in advance.
It doesn't matter if in the end he kills someone and the law knows it. Why would law not support me and supports the murderer?
I did not say it would not do so, but I say it has difficulties. It has to look at the case and it has to...
The law is not correct. It has to be revised.
Okay, there we are back to this question of law is law legally and law is morally. We have this difficulty. I don't know, I don't want to say this is correct, this is not correct. I only want to make you aware of this effect. I watched 2 years ago a film. It was as well a little bit a documentary, but it was plain known. It was a court case, documented, and where the lawyer at the end said, have a guess? I know that you are guilty. I don't respect what you did, but I have, according to the law, say not guilty.
You're talking about the Lincoln's Advocate? Lincoln's Advocate?
No.
Which movie is that?
It was in Germany a case where actually a Kurdish person had been attacked and murdered, and it was the fascist was doing it. It was very complicated. Because it was so complicated, many people had been involved, many groups. The judge could not prove that this person or the two people had been guilty. He knew it, there was every evidence, but not enough. There was this tiny bit missing. Actually, there was a counter evidence, which he could not prove to be wrong. So he said, he had to say, I know you are guilty, and I have to plead for not guilty. And this is what you have in law. Not permanently, but in many cases. This is exactly this difference between consequential and categorical decisions. What are the criteria you have? And how can you, at the end of the day, justify them? Saying everybody is equal. Everybody is individual, able to decide according to the rationality. And he or she will decide rationally. This is the conflict. We cannot take it for granted that everybody decides rationally. At the same time, we have to do exactly this, equality. Law is not simply a scheme that you can apply without problems. It's a scheme of contradictions. And it is a scheme, just to conclude the first part, of which one point is the so-called habeas corpus, that the judge actually can say, I want to see this person and talk to this person before I judge him. I do not trust simply the facts that are brought to me, but if there is evidence that you murdered somebody, you had been stealing, I don't know what, and you did whatever wrong, other way, I want, and this is the other way, you have the right to defend yourself. Exactly there you come to your point, you have to defend that you had not been saying the truth for a good reason. The fact that you didn't say the truth does not count, or at least I can as judge decide, does not count as long as I did not hear your arguments basically saying why you did it. And why you did it, this is the last point here, the third plane of history. That's the long-term history. 50 years, 100 years, everybody went into the wood with an axe and cutting wood. But then you have other traditions, religious traditions, they go back hundreds and hundreds of years. We don't even know about them. We do not think about
Abandonné.